Hey everybody, Movie Review Next Door here, and I'm here with part one of, I think I'm going to do 4 videos for my 200 subscriber special. I'm very happy to be at this point, even though I'm not trying to do YouTube as like a job or anything. It is nice to celebrate when I can, good for my self-esteem. So this, for these videos, it's going to be 3 movies that are in my top 20 movies of all time. The third video will be on my very favorite film of all time. I'm not gonna spoil that just yet. I mean, if anybody does any digging about me, they know it, but whatever. And the fourth video is gonna be like a top 20 of all of my favorite films. So, I'm gonna start off with this video on Equilibrium. Now, yes, this is a 2-pack Blu-ray with Equilibrium and Renaissance, which I do remember liking Renaissance. Really cool visual style. But, I just wish this film had its own Blu-ray release. It might, but Miramax was really bad back in the day with releasing stuff on DVD, like in an 8-pack. And putting like 4 movies on a disc or 2 movies on a disc, and it's really annoying. The picture quality's still really good here, but let me get on to the movie. Equilibrium was directed by Kurt Wimmer, came out in 2002, and it stars Christian Bale, Taye Diggs, Angus McFadden, Sean Bean, Matthew Harbour, Emily Watson, and Sean Pertwee. Now, in this film, the story is, in a dystopian future, a totalitarian regime maintains peace by subduing the populace with a drug, and displays of emotion are punishable by death. A man in charge of enforcing the law rises to overthrow the system. Now, what do I think of this film? Well, I mean, it's in my top films of all time, so I think it's fucking fantastic. I love it. I love Christian Bale's performance. I think this is his very best performance in his career. I know some people will say many other things. Was he in most people would probably say like American Psycho, The Machinist, The Fighter, Public Enemies, like stuff like that. I like Christian Bale, but I do think this is better than American Psycho, acting wise. I like this movie more than American Psycho. I know a lot of people love it. It's fine if you do. I just don't see it as the horror classic everyone else does. But, again, just getting straight onto the cast so that I could talk about this movie. Christian Bale's John Preston does a fantastic job. He has to act both with no emotion, the part of the film where he has emotion but can't show it or else he'll die, and then the parts where he just lets full on with emotion, which are just so powerful. I love him in this. I mean, I know that the Academy would never nominate a film like this for anything, not even visual effects, but he really does elevate this film, and I don't mean like the film is bad. I love the film as a whole, but he elevates the film to feeling less like just, a kind of a throwaway sci-fi action film, and to more of a personal, like, character journey, which is what it really is. I mean, the trailers will make you think, oh yeah, action-packed, whatever. It's not really all that action-packed. It's a very story-based, kind of, not sure if I'd say slow burn, because there is constant shit happening. Maybe it's a building film. It builds. Taye Diggs as Brant. He might be a small problem I have with the film. It's not that I hate his performance, but I'm not sure if his character is supposed to be showing emotions or not, because there are constant scenes where he's got a smile, or he like lets out a little chuckle, and I'm like, isn't that kind of suspect or whatever? But like, he did a fine job. I'm just a bit iffy on what he did with his performance. Angus McFadden is DuPont. He's basically the leader of this new world where, again, if you show emotions, you die, that kind of thing. Matthew Harbour as Robbie Preston, the son of Christian Bale. He does a good job. I do think he does a good job. I think he's believable as the son. Sean Bean is Errol Partridge. He's Preston's early partner. He's not in the film much, but he does what he does good with the material. Emily Watson as Mary O'Brien. Again, I really wish she was in the film more because she's so good. She's really good, and her scenes with Christian Bale are just so well done, and she's acting her heart out in these scenes. But she's like reserved as well. It's not like over the top. It's more reserved emotion that really does hit home in this film where it's built up that like no one is allowed to have emotions or else they can be punished by incineration or firing squad. Like, it's insane. And Sean Pertwee as father, he's not really a character per se. He's kind of like a leader that's like on these like billboards, kind of like in Blade Runner with the billboards on the sides of buildings and all that. It's kind of like that. But I like Sean Pertwee. I've seen quite a few films with him. But yeah, this film, this one's so interesting. It's one of those that back when it came out, it didn't really do that well. Let me actually look up the numbers, because I remember this film did well in Europe, but then when it came to America, Miramax didn't put any money into it, so it did nothing. Yeah, box office in America was $5.3 million against a $20 million budget, and I'll get to how good the film looks. But like, yeah, basically they just didn't do anything with it. And yeah, nothing happened. Yeah, here you go. The film had an estimated production budget of $20 million. International pre-release sales had already made a profit, so the studio reduced the film's promotion and advertising budget to avoid the risk of the film losing money. As a consequence, theatrical release was limited. The film was only shown in 301 theaters at its widest release in the United States, earning $541,512 in its opening week and only $1.2 million when it closed on December 26, 2002. The film earned $4.1 million internationally for a total of $5.3 million worldwide. So yeah, Kurt Wimmer, poor guy. Like, I've seen one of his other films. He's directed 4 films. He's written multiple. He directed One Tough Bastard, or One Man's Justice, an action film from '95 with Brian Bosworth, Bruce Payne, and MC Hammer. I actually wish I had a DVD of that, because I did like it. But he also wrote Sphere, Thomas Crown Affair remake in '99, The Recruit, Street Kings, Law Abiding Citizen. I love Law Abiding Citizen, except for what felt like rewrites for the end. Maybe someday I'll do a review on Law Abiding Citizen and my issues with it. Salt, which I love Salt. I've always loved Salt. Total Recall remake, Point Break remake, Spell. The Misfits was fine. But yeah, the films he's directed, he did One Tough Bastard, this film Equilibrium, Ultraviolet, and The Children of the Corn 2020 film, which I do want to see. I've heard horrible things about it. I don't care. Very, very curious. But yeah, this film is just... There's so much that I love about this film. I love the location. I love this, like, industrial city that's supposed to be very gross and kind of dingy looking. And really just kind of, what's the term I'm looking for? It's supposed to look kind of drab, to at the very most make people not see the city as beautiful because they're not allowed to feel. And I think that's a very nice detail. They could have made it have all these bells and whistles, but that would have made it less believable. Sorry. But I just liked that little detail. And then later in the film, when Preston rips off the thing covering the window in his bedroom and sees the light shining off of everything and makes it kind of beautiful, I think that's a very nice contrast there. And just this film, yeah, I've heard people say, oh yeah, there's symbolism, there's a lot of meaningless symbolism. I don't think it's meaningless. The whole thing of Preston finally being able to feel, him taking off his gloves, feeling like bullet holes in a wall, something he's never felt before. And Christian Bale acts the hell out of this film. He really does. There are people that say that his performance is bored. For the first bit, it's supposed to be. He's supposed to not be feeling any emotion. And the fact that he's finally feeling it because of an accident, where he doesn't take his Prozac because he accidentally drops it and doesn't get a new dose, just that, immediately his entire outlook on life has changed from I'm not allowed to feel emotions to I know I'm not allowed to feel emotions because I'm feeling them right now. It's a very powerful theme in this film, emotion, and I think this film did a pretty spectacular job. Yeah, it's not, I mean, if I can say anything against it, there are instances where characters are clearly expressing emotion. I understand. If characters weren't allowed to express any types of emotions, it would make for a very fucking boring movie. The emotions that they emit in this film, for the most part, are very subtle. So it's not so out there that people are screaming or anything. But the most people will do is, excuse me, they'll be not a but a something so subtle that most people wouldn't notice it. But if you're nitpicky, some critics are, they'll be oh, the entire reasoning for the movie has just been destroyed. No, it's not. It's a fucking science fiction movie. You don't have to take it so seriously. And yeah, there's inevitably gonna be the people who compare this to 1984, to Fahrenheit 451, to Brave New World, and yeah, I can, even The Matrix, I can kinda understand some of those, but I also don't, because, I mean, how many different ways can you do a dystopian movie? Borrowing small things from these movies does not make the film unoriginal. I think it's mostly stuck-up film critics that don't know how to have fun with a movie, and if you just let this film do its job, I feel like you'll get the intended result, unless you have no feelings. Because ever since the first time I've seen this film, it really does get the emotions going at certain points. When Preston is for the first time has a guy die in his arms that he doesn't even know, he still feels emotion and he has to keep that all inside. I love that. It's telling the story visually instead of just telling us in dialogue what is going on. You see that he is struggling to keep it together throughout his days. One of the best moments of the film of acting with Christian Bale, and this is a point where I actually think the editing really helps it. They find this dog farm, or this dog pen in the Nethers, behind these apartment buildings, these rundown apartment buildings that the Resistance are in, and they're okay, exterminate them. And every time a shot rings out, it's a cut for Christian Bale going I like that. It's showing that this is really impacting him, and him like trying to keep these emotions, and like they're just this close to coming out and showing that he's a sense offender, and I just loved it. Like his acting is so good. It really is. Like the people that hate on this movie, they can't even admit that it's a good movie for Christian Bale's acting. They'll just be like, no, it's a stupid sci-fi action movie. The action scenes lack tension. I'd say that's kind of the point. I mean, the point of this whole style, and it's a very breathtaking style of action, the whole, if I can demonstrate, I've got two fake guns here. Basically, the whole point of gun kata is like, they've analyzed all of these different gun battles in history, and then the people just be like that, like, and it's really cool to watch. I know that some people will be like, oh, it's unrealistic. Yeah, it's a science fiction movie. It's not trying to be realistic. That's the whole point of movies: escapism, fun, enjoying your time. So many movies nowadays forget that you can just have an enjoyable movie and it doesn't have to be fucking depressing. Like No Time to Die was. But like, yeah, I don't really understand people's big issues with the film. I just wish they'd give it more of a chance. Like, you know, watch a movie and have fun. But it seems like people have forgotten how to do that. But again, like, this film deserves its own Blu-ray. It should not be on a dual pack, even though I didn't mind Renaissance. I think if I were to rate it again, I'd have to watch it again. I remembered it being like a decent movie, but I bumped it up a bit because of the style, because it was something I had never seen before. It's not the exact style of Sin City. It does get it does get compared to Sin City with its visual style, but I would say it's quite different, actually. Especially in the way it was animated. But yeah, this film deserves its own release. It deserves new interviews with the cast, the crew, the director, even, because Kurt Wimmer deserves better scripts. He deserves better movies. Ultraviolet was looked like a remake of this, and not a good remake. The visual effects look like shit. But the whole thing with this film costed $20 million. The only times where I could see the budget shining through, like, in a bad way, at the end there's some explosions that are very clearly green screened in, and they don't look that great, but I don't care because I was having so much fun with the film, and I was so enthralled by the stories of the characters, and that it just didn't really stand out to me that much. And other than that, Taye Diggs doesn't do a bad job. He doesn't do bad. It's just that I'm a bit unclear on if he's supposed to be showing emotion or if he's not supposed to be showing emotion, so I'm not really too sure on that. But yeah, I love this film. But I don't know what else to say. I hope that more people will watch Equilibrium and come out of it, maybe not thinking it's one of their favorite films, but at least coming out of it and enjoying it. I really want to, I want more people to give the film a chance. There you go. So, let's go to the pros and cons. Pros, again, Christian Bale, fucking fantastic in this film. Like, Oscar caliber performance, but the Oscars would never give an award to a movie that made a quarter of its budget back. Emily Watson, good, needed to be in it more. Let me read this. Angus McFadden, Sean Bean, Matthew Harbour, William Fichtner, all do good jobs. The score by Klaus Badelt. I just added this the playlist of the score on YouTube to my library, so you can tell what that means. I love the score to this film. It's atmospheric, electronic, but not like electronic intrusive. Like, it doesn't feel like it's distracting from the like plot of the movie or the story or anything. It's the best type of score. I love the visual style. I do. I think it's very. It is somewhat inspired by 1984, but pretty much every fucking dystopian movie like Repo Man or Repo Men, that kind of stuff is inspired by that. It's not a rip-off, it's inspired. And there's nothing wrong with inspiring your film on like other films in the same genre. So any directors, if you see this, don't worry. I'll still watch it. The action scenes again. While I don't know if it was a conscious decision to make the action scenes not have any blood in them, and this film is rated R for violence. The only bits of violence I saw were a scene where someone gets sliced with a sword, but there's barely any blood. There's like a tiny bit of blood spray, but nothing really like goes anywhere. There's a bit where Preston has his like pistols and he like beats these like other soldiers with them, and they have like little nails out, and like you see a bit of blood, I guess. And there's a bit where someone's face gets cut off by a sword. But other than that, I don't really see why this film would be R. There's one scene where Preston like flips these guys' guns on them and they're like, oh, fuck. But with PG-13 you can have an F-bomb, so I don't really understand why this was rated R. I kind of wish there would have been more violence, but maybe that's against Kurt Wimmer's ideas or something. I don't know. Cons, again, the CGI explosions at the end don't look that great. I don't even know if they're CGI. I think they're just green screen because they look like real explosions. And Tate Eggs, I'm a bit iffy on his performance. But yeah, I still fucking love this film. I hope more people will watch it. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere. I'm not really sure about that, but if it is, I'll try to let people know. But yeah, if you like the review, comment down below, like, subscribe, whatever, and Movie Review Next Door out.